Good evening, everybody, and welcome to round two of Supercoach Off the Bench. I am your host, Ross, coach of Benchwarmers. On the podcast tonight, we're joined by three of the members, two of the members, I should say, and one special guest. So we've got welcome, Brad. How did you go this week?
No, about the same as everybody else, I'm afraid, probably in the Supercoach world, just treading water, trying to avoid as many pitfalls and shit-house scorers as I possibly can.
Did
Yeah,
you
that's about me.
did you cop much of the carnage this week with the scores?
No, I copped a bit. I mean, unfortunately, I thought it was going to be a bold move. I thought I'd play forward, seeing as how he went the first week. And of course, we saw what happened. I've got Cheese. There's somebody else there that went incredibly poorly. I've seen some teams, though, that had Drinkwater, Cheese, Ford. I've seen some teams out there that absolutely copped it really bad. So I'm not as bad as them. Yeah. Anyway, that's Supercoach.
And Timmy, welcome, Timmy. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, boys. Good to see the Broncos had another win the other night. It's top of the table, looks pretty nice at the moment. The Dolphins in first and Broncos in second. It's going to make for a very interesting game in round 4, that's for sure. I think next week we've got the Dragons, who obviously just had their first win of the season, and I think the Dolphins go down to Newcastle. So that's going to be very interesting. Round 3 and 4. So yeah, round 4 could be a top of the table clash. It would be nice to see at Suncorp. For me, for Lightweights FC, I had an 874. It was a bit of a shocker after doing so well last week. Unfortunately, I had CNK and I had Ponga for his 90 seconds. I think he went in for the first tackle of the game and got whacked by the attacker's hip. So out cold and really sad to see. You've got to question now what KP's going to do. I can imagine he's going to be sitting out for a few weeks now, which is going to be sad. I can't see it being a 1 or 2 week thing. He obviously can't play within 11 days because that went to a category 1 straight away. But I can't see. Surely he's going to have a month out or something. It's player health has really got to start to come into play now, and he's had quite his fair share of head knocks. So really sad to see, and hope he gets well really quickly. But yeah, an 874 for my Lightweights FC. 2 out of 10 leagues winning at the moment, but 3 of those are by 10 points or less that I'm behind. So hopefully I can get some positive things in update. I went Captain Dewey as a bit of a pod play, and that didn't quite go as well as I would have liked.
Yeah. And lastly, we've got Dan from the Tragics podcast. Welcome to the show, Dan, and how'd your week go?
I think the only thing I got right was my captain choice, I think, this week, and everything else fell apart. So I was when I saw Ponga go down, because I got Hastings, not Ponga. So I thought, oh, this would be great. But it turns out that Gamble steals a lot of Hastings points. So that's a little worry that I'm going to have. I thought Ponga and Hastings complement each other quite well. But Gamble definitely takes away some of his points. So got something to think about there. But I played forward. I thought playing forward might be a better option than trading out some of my buy players. I thought he did all right last week, so I thought instead of trading out Turbo, I'll just keep him and put a different reserve on. And yeah, it didn't do too well, but I reckon he was. I'm still happy with Ford. I don't think he's going to miss many weeks. I think he'll be a decent cashy for me. So
yeah. Well, I finished on a 938. Bit of carnage for me. I had played home Hunt. Don't know why. 18 points, Cheats for 10, Ford for 4. But anyway, them's the breaks. Move on to next round, I suppose. All right, just before we start, just as usual, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Bluebet, for jumping on board again, obviously, as well. So thanks for them. They're doing a fantastic job helping us out with a lot of things. They're organising some donations of some jerseys for this Matt Wilson fundraiser that we're doing, which is fantastic. So thanks again to them. All right, so we'll go to the first game of the round, which was Panthers 16, Souths 10. Not really any massive Superscope scores in this game. Crichton got 85, Brian Tottle 67, Isaiah Tass 66, and Kyler Matangi 62. Yeah, 62. Latrell 62 and AJ 62. I'll go to you first, Dan. What do you think of this game?
I thought it was a very messy game. I thought it was rugby league wise. I think Panthers did their homework on South at the start, early on, and they just attacked. They had an assignment to do, and they attacked the markers. Their markers just chased after every single one. They had very fast line speed, tired their forwards out. The second half, we just backed off. I think they were a bit too tired. So, but one thing I took out of this was a lot of people traded out Garner, who actually came out of a bit of a decent game, 60 points there. So other than that, this game, I wasn't really excited about Penrith at all. I think we're a bit better than we were last week, and we'll get better and better again next week. But still a few worries there, I think.
Yeah. Brad?
Yeah. I didn't really get much out of it from who scored well. Those people that went off to he had a bounce back, which you just sort of said. Garner, well, he sort of, might have repaid a few people who are hanging in there. Probably the biggest talking point of it is going to come from Cleary and his 40 points. But I don't know if we talk about that now or later, but Cleary and his 40 on top of his 50 odd last week. It's not a good looking prospect going forward for owners, that's for sure.
And obviously, to those 8,000 people who bought in Lachlan Ilias this week for 19 points as well.
Yeah, well, that's chasing last week's points. Isn't there a rule in Supercoach about that?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it was. It was quite a low scoring game for Supercoach. Obviously, Thompson was a bit disappointing. Sonny Luke 29 as well. I think there's much to talk about with this game, to be honest with you. All right, so we'll move on to the next game with Para going down to Sharks 30 points to 26, which was a bit of an upset. Hopgood, Jermaine Hopgood, unbelievable game again from him, 124 points. I still can't believe he's not 100% owned. I checked the other day and he's still at 59% ownership only. So to those 41 people that don't own him, or 41%, I just can't believe it. Will Kennedy was brilliant, 106. I think he scored 3 tries. Dalen Brown, 105. Nakora, 92. And Sivo, 87. Tim, what did you get anything out of this game other than the fact that Hopgood's an actual gun?
Yeah. Look, I missed the game because I was at the Broncos, but I've got Hopgood in my side. I've been keeping an eye on the Eels players quite simply because of their draw. And once their draw starts to free up in another couple of weeks after they stop playing top 8 teams from last season, then I'm pretty keen to get on some of these Eels players. Look, Hopgood just amazing. Like he's going to be an absolute gun. There's been talk about him for a while now, and he seems to be giving everything that we expected. So, yeah, look, you're mad if you don't have him. If you're not in that 59%, then you absolutely need to do something about that real quick. It's time to make some trades going into the first price change round after this next week. So, yeah, look, Hopgood needs to be in not only in your 25, needs to be in probably your starting 13 every week.
Did you boys ever listen to that old podcast looking or searching for Corey Parker?
Yeah.
Stop the presses. We found him.
Yeah, that's it. All they got to do now is get Hopgood to take some conversion kicks, and you're certainly all over him.
Oh my God, could you imagine that?
Yeah,
That'd be fantastic
100%.
if you kick goals. Dan, anything to take out of this game?
God 2.0.
Dan, what about you? Anyone from this game that you're looking at potentially getting or you thought was really good?
Well, there's a couple there that I thought were pretty good, but not that I potentially want to get. Like example is Will Kennedy was brilliant again. But in saying that, that's 3 tries he got to get 106. That's a lot of tries for if Teddy got 3 tries, he's getting 150. So but one thing I did take out of this was we're not going to be so reliant on Bryce Cartwright to get attacking stats anymore. 58 points thrown with base attack alone. That's pretty good effort there from Carty. Still a very keen watch though, just because he is Cartwright and he might change his tone. But you also got Matto coming back in round. What is it? Round 4 he's coming back.
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah. So but 58 points. I think he got 55 last week as well. Just in the same way, just squeezing out base and base attack. So I'm pretty happy with that. Hodgson, I guess, had a 4 from Grace. Everyone jumped on last week with his 60 points and he very cheap price. And then 80 minutes and he gets 35 points this week. So, yeah.
Hey, any love anybody for or I'll throw this one at you, Dan, if you want. Do you like any love for Tricky? I mean, he's only 234K, isn't he? Like, wow, what a replacement! That would leave you some cash if you went Cleary to Tricky, just for a cash burn up, and then 3 weeks time go back to Cleary again.
So I'm gonna be one of those. Oh, Trindle.
Yeah,
Okay.
Trindle.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tricky Trindle.
Yeah, how did he go this week? Because I got 76, but even last week, like I watched him and he looked like he deserved that spot. I believe he looked so good NRL wise, but he got 48 points last week. So that's why I was concerned. Is he going to be underscored? You know that you get those guys that get the unicorn points, and I think he missed out on a few.
Wasn't there a late sin bin or something that hurt him last week?
I didn't watch the entire game last week. I just saw how good he looked, and he was like,
yeah, I think you'll find
everything went around him.
The late sin bin that killed his points there last week, I think.
I think this is the unknown of Hines as well. Just the unknown is what's scary. So if Hines is back potentially next week, he's doing the captain's run. So if there's any if Hines is back next week, then he's gone.
I think if we knew at the start of the season that, say, Hines was going to miss 5-6 weeks, and Trindle would have been worth jumping on, but given it's a week-to-week prospect, it's a bit hard to jump on a player like that, I think. Obviously, that game, there was a few disappointments. Michael Blake, 23. Katoa was pretty awful with 21, and Raymond for 33. I know a lot of people jumped on Junior Paulo after he got his big score last round. He pumped out a 50. But other than that, there wasn't really much else from that game, I don't think. Moses was not bad with 83 as well, but scored 2 tries. Looked pretty good, but all right, we'll move on to the next game, which is Timmy's Broncos versus the Cowboys. Broncos got the win 28-16. Reece Walsh on debut, absolutely outstanding for the Broncos with 105 points. Ezra Mam, another solid game from him, 82 points. Nanai, 74. Payne Haas, 65, and Herbie, 64. I'll go to you first, Tim, being the Broncos supporter. You were at the game.
Yeah, look, it was awesome. It was a rather damp game. Thank God we sit in row 21 on the members' side, because we just stay that little bit out of the rain. We only get the heavy stuff and when the wind's blowing in the wrong direction. But no, it was awesome. The atmosphere was great. We had 43,000 people there on Friday night. Most Sydney games don't get that in a month with all bloody 8,000 Sydney teams all accumulated points together. So, yeah, look, it was really good. 43,000, great atmosphere. They put on a really good show too. Plenty of fireworks at the start. Smoke was hanging around for about the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. It was awesome. I took 2 of my kids. One of them's on the never again list for this season, that's for sure. Reece Walsh on fire on 105. Look, he was just in everything. You can't beat pure speed in the NRL. I didn't watch the last part of the Titans game just now, but Khan Pereira, the same thing. You just can't beat speed. If you can get it to a quick man who get the ball early enough, and they just start to create things. But Reece Walsh, fantastic. He's going to be a great signing. It's great to have him back home with us. Ezra Mam was also really impressive. There's a few guys that have sort of gave him a little bit of a hard time in our circle with all the podmasters and stuff after last week's game, and I thought they were bonkers. He gets his hands on the ball. I just love Ezra because he's so far different to other halfbacks and 5'8" in that he runs first, kicks second, and nearly every time he gets the ball, he runs first, kicks second. So look, I love it. Payne Haas and Paddy Carrigan both went in mid-60s again. And Herbie Farnworth with another try on a 64. So, look, as far as the Cowboys go, I've been pretty keen to keep an eye on Cotter. I had him for most of the preseason. I have Val Holmes. He's been quite disappointing. For the draw that the Cowboys had, I really thought that Val would have knocked out 2 tons in a row now. Nanai, 2 tries for a 74, had a third one, but had one disallowed. But, yeah, look, second rower who scored 2 tries and still only scores 74 shows he hasn't got much in base. But, yeah, look, it's the game was good. The Super Coach scoring was relatively high, but only the 1 ton. But, yeah, look, I think Reece Walsh is a genuine – if you're looking at a Teddy downgrade, before Teddy goes on the bye, or while Teddy's on the bye, I think Reece Walsh is probably a good shout.
Just want to ask those who own, do we all own Val?
Yes.
What are we planning on doing with Val? Because I think if he's probably going to move to fullback next week, I would say with Drinky being suspended, I'm going to probably hold him if he plays fullback. But if he doesn't, I'm pretty damn tempted to sell to Garrick or someone else. Are you guys probably looking at doing the same before he works out too much cash?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm looking at doing, going Val to Garrick. If depending on what after lockout comes out, obviously, depending on what his BE is, even if he does turn up next week, I think you might lose some cash, and then you may just jump back on again. There's obviously a lot of moving parts with the Cowboys. After they're probably going to get 2 suspensions out of that back line, or their back 3. So yeah, look, it's I think it's a viable option to go Val over to Garrick, but that's just my opinion with my team.
What about you, Brad?
No, I'll be holding Val. I've got other issues in my team without. I still think they've got a good 4 or 5 games coming up in their draw that I don't think they leave Queensland for the next 7 weeks still. So yeah, no, Val will wake up. It'll be all right.
Yeah, Dan.
Nah, he did this same thing last year. He starts off a bit slower and then kicks into gear. I'd rather lose a bit of cash and then let him make it up a bit later, like he always does, rather than waste a trade. So he's one of those guys that I'd be too scared not to own any given week. So I'll be keeping him.
Yeah. Anyone else want to touch anything on that game? Dan or Brad?
No. I'm happy.
No. All right, next game was Roosters 20, Warriors 12, and all I can say is the Roosters are probably lucky they only played the Warriors because they were terrible. They looked absolutely terrible, and they're just decimated with injuries in that forward pack at the moment, and they really, really struggled. But I feel for those who captained Teddy this week because he bombed a try, and Suwali just didn't want to pass him the ball when he was open for a try. Anyway, Sam Walker I thought he was good game 92, Jackson Paulo 91, Wade Egan outstanding again with 88 points, Nakore 82, and Suwali 81. We'll go to you first this time, Brad. What did you take out of this game?
Well, very similar to some of the previous games. I took probably more out of the poor results and the high results. I guess 55 is not that poor from Teddy, but it does mean he's going to lose a lot of cash over the next 3 or so weeks. Nat Butcher for owners, I suppose he didn't go too bad. 61, he'll still make some money. The Cheese, for his 10 points, very scary. And I guess Walker, if it wasn't for the shocking looking draw in the decimated forward pack, Walker would be one I'd be jumping on. I'd go straight from Cleary down to Walker, 100%. But that draw and having no forwards to run the ball up over the next few weeks does sort of scare me a little bit in his direction. Egan, if people want to, for basically the same money as Cheese, oh, geez, he could be a swift little pod move there too, couldn't he?
It's interesting because I don't think we looked at many Warriors players at the start because of their horrific draw, but it seems to be that him and the other one I should mention, Tohu Harris, punched out of 72 with pretty much all in base. Yeah. He's been fantastic the first couple of games as well. I'm not sure on his minutes. Did he end up playing 80 again? Do we know? I didn't check that.
Yeah, I haven't seen. Yeah, okay. I didn't check.
Yeah. All right, Timmy. What about you, mate?
Yeah, look, it's been interesting. Been a bit of chat over the weekend of guys looking at going Nathan Cleary next week down to Sam Walker. We all assume that Cleary's going to lose a bucket load of cash, but he's got the bye next week, so he won't actually lose anything till after his game in round 4. I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the right play. I understand why people might do it because you're going to have a lot of cash sitting on your bench next week with Cleary out on the bye. But considering Sam Walker has the bye the week after, for the sake of using really 2 trades to go Cleary out, Walker in, and then Walker out back to Cleary the week later, I really don't see a lot of point in it. Walker got a 92 in this game, had a BE of 57, so he's only cleared his BE by 35 points. So it's not as if he's going to go up 100K or anything like that himself. unless he has another massive game next week. So, yeah, look, I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the right thing. Joseph Suwali seems to be playing really well at the moment. He's an option in centre wing. I'm all for those that started with Cheese going as a straight swap over to Wade Egan. I think that's a great play. Niokore banged out an 82 this week. That was an interesting one. I know there's a few guys in our podcasters chat groups that got on Niokore nice and early. But Tohu Harris he's that engine that just keeps on giving. He's just amazing. So someone who's had the injury history and everything that he's had, to still be the driving force over there at the Warriors, he's killing it. So yeah, if you want to go a bit of a pod away from Payne Haas or Paddy or Joey Tapane, Tohu Harris is probably your man.
And Jewel too. And Jewel position.
He did play 80. Sorry, Ross.
He
He did play
Thank
80 for the second week in a row. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The only other one I've been disappointed with, I started with Egan Butcher. I got caught in all the hype that he's the better footballer than his brother. His brother seems to be looking so much better on the field than Egan Butcher does. So yeah, look, unfortunately, I've got Egan there, and I've probably got bigger fish to fry this week than to move him on.
Yeah, obviously the duds in that game. Obviously Jackson Ford 4 points, but copped the HIA pretty early in the game. Charles Nickel Klostak, which was pretty highly owned, and a lot traded him in this week, 13 points as well. Yeah, and obviously Cheese with his 10 points. I think he's got to be a sell. I don't think anyone should be hanging on to him, to be honest with you. All right, next game is Dolphins versus the Raiders. The Dolphins got the win, 20 points to 14. Tom Gilbert, 80 points. Hammer, 79. Tarpany, 64. Kotrick, 61. Other than that, there wasn't really too much in regards to Supercoach scores in that game. I'll go to you first. Brad, what did you make of this game?
Look, a cracking game. I really enjoyed it. I'll just say that straight up. Unlucky for Sticky. Oh, poor old Ricky. He didn't quite blow a gasket after the game, but he went close to it. Tommy Gilbert, I must admit he's in my team, but he ran around here I think it's around about 1.4 ppm. Only 60 minutes, which is interesting. I thought he'd probably cop closer to 80 minutes. But Wayne he's giving him a bit of a rest here and there. But 80 points isn't too bad. The Hammer is going to be quite interesting. There is going to be, if you don't own him, I can see people going the Teddy to the Hammer move just out of something interesting. And it'll leave them a lot of cash to get Hines if Hines becomes available. So, yeah, that could be a really interesting move for a lot of people to take. Katoa, he just keeps bumbling along. It's his second 40 in a row. That'll earn him a bit of cash going forwards. Canberra, well, who knows? I mean, I just can't figure Ricky out sometimes. I don't think any super coaches ever can. What's the go with Starling, right? If that bloke isn't a starting bloody hooker, but he keeps persisting with this, starting with an average hooker and then bringing Starling on into the game. If Starling played the full 80 minutes, he wouldn't be scoring the 48 points he got. He would be scoring more likely, upwards of 70 points a game. He's good enough. But anyway, that's Ricky for you. I've got nothing more on that one, really.
But it all goes back to last season when Starling was killing it playing 80 minutes, and then all of a sudden he went and started. Who was the other hooker he started with instead? Wolford.
Yeah.
And when Starling wasn't getting the minutes, I'm surprised no other clubs tried to pick him up, to be honest with you. So there's a few clubs out there that could do with a decent hooker like him. Timmy, what about you? What do you make of the Dolphins? Obviously they're 2 for 2 now, which has probably surprised a few people.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It certainly surprised me. As I said on the show last week, but it's certainly good for the game. And what all the reports today have come out about the NRL and the government talking about trying to find a way to put an 18th, 19th and 20th team in. I think the better the Dolphins go, the more likely they are of probably having a crack at doing some expansion or further expansion. Look, I was pretty impressed with Tommy Gilbert. just his overall, his work rate is just it's really awesome. He's we all knew that when he came down from the Cowboys that he had a lot to offer, but yeah, we just weren't quite sure where the minutes were going to come from or if he'd get the minutes. But yeah, look, it's the Hammer, 79 points, 2 tries though for his 34 in there, 34 obviously 79, but yeah, look, I've got CNK in my team, so chances are he's not going to play next week, and he's probably a straight swap over to the Hammer to take some of that cash that he's going to generate.
Dan?
Yeah, about Starling, you notice it when he comes on, 20 minutes when the game starts and starts playing lock with Levi still on the field. They've been really kind of merging him into that lock kind of role that Hodgson used to kind of play, but more Hodgson would start off at hooker and then turn into the lock afterwards. So I'm not sure what they're doing there. Like Raiders really need another forward. They've got so many early forwards there, but they're making him into another lock. So he's getting a bit more minutes than what he was last year, but still not obviously worth it. Yeah, Gilbert, I haven't got him, but I was versing a guy that had him, and I was like, saw him score that try and thought, I should check his score out. It's like, 55 points. That's pretty decent, okay, I guess, with a try. Turns out that was his score before the try, and that was all work rate before that. So to show, I could see him on the game. You can see him; he was working his butt off all the way through. So I might need to look at potentially going Stefano to him and get some catch that way, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, Hudson Young was disappointing with 19 points. Jamie Marshall-King, 33. Got sin banned and also popping a 2 to 3 match suspension. So for those who are obviously looking at getting him, he's obviously a no-go now. Just on Tarpany with 64 points, only played 48 minutes. So I'm not too sure what Ricky's doing there with his forwards again, but you'd expect him to be playing probably closer to 55, 60, wouldn't you, Dan?
Yeah, I think he tends to start off around 48 and then move into 50, and then it doesn't get much bigger than that usually. I think it's around the 50, 55 mark. And I think it's just when the weather cools down, he starts to get a bit more work rate up there. But just on that, Hudson Young, I think he's a great footy player and everything, but he's one of the biggest loudmouths in the game. How good was it to see him get poleaxed by Kafusi? That was a great hit. I love that. I got so excited when you got a mouth on you, which Hudson Young does. I love when you get smacked. So, and he would have loved it too. I reckon he probably would have been loving it as well. So, but yeah,
They backed it up again after his massive hit on Chiefs last week as well. Just brilliant.
So
Happy
good
to see that stuff, honestly.
Oh yeah.
All right, we'll go to
Just
the
on
next.
that, boys,
Yep.
how you were talking about Joey Tapney in the article that I wrote the other day for Off the Bench with Timmy O's Fear Factor. Joey Tapney actually only averages 52 minutes per game per season. So his 48 isn't far off from what he actually gets across the board anyway. So, yeah, like we were just saying before, that it's more a work rate thing with Joey. The more minutes that he gets doesn't necessarily translate into more work, but, yeah, certainly as it gets cooler, he's more likely to get a bit more workload in.
All right, so we'll go to the next game, which is probably upset of the round. Melbourne going down to the Dogs, 26 points to 12. Jacob Carraz, absolutely outstanding in this game. I think it was like 10 tackle buffs. It was 2 or 3 tries, just in absolute beast mode for this one. Jerome Hughes, 91, was good in the losing side. So was Cattell with 90, and Averillo 90, and Reed Marnie 89, and Jacob Preston, the one to watch at bottom dollar. 83 points, playing 80 minutes. Go to you first, this one. Dan, who impressed you in this game?
Well, obviously Carraz looked amazing. Really good effort there, and yeah, like I said, Preston there, he's running some really good lines. He's going to get a lot of tries in that angle there. But what I will say is, we're talking about who to go Cleary to. I think Hughes is the man. With Munster and Papenhuyzen not playing, and they've got next week they've got the Titans, and the week after they've got the Tigers. So I think and then by then, when you want to trade Hughes back to Cleary, about probably, I'd say a $60,000, maybe $70,000 discount. So,
yeah,
I agree.
Tim?
Yeah, look, their next 5 weeks, the Bulldogs' next 5 weeks, obviously just had the Storm. They've got the Tigers, the Warriors, Cowboys, Souths, Para, Sharks, St. George. That gets them into round 9. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there for the draw, but I actually like they've got the Tigers, Warriors, and then even Cowboys over the next 3 weeks. I think that could go all right, especially for somebody like Jacob Carraz. If you're looking for maybe a bit of a left field one like a Brian Toto or something like that, if you're trying to come up with an alternative, I think Carraz could be worth a crack.
Yeah. Brad?
The only thing really, I mean, obviously, Preston is one that everybody's going to be looking very hard at. I'll quickly make note he only didn't only score, but he scored 25 points the first game, right? So that means that next week's price changes, he'll still have that 25 sitting. So he'll get a little price rise next week, but his big price rise is going to come the week after. So it's not necessary to just jump on him this week. You've basically got another week up your sleeve to have a look at him before his average, his nice juicy score here actually really affects his average. He's the higher price rise will be in week 4, not next week.
Yeah, I agree with that because, for example, I would be looking at someone like Tuolangi, so who I have in my team at the moment from Manly. I'll probably downgrade Tuolangi to him, but I want to watch what Tuolangi can do as well as what Preston can do to see if that's even a worthwhile trade. So I like that call.
We've got
Absolutely.
TPJ due back round 5. I don't know if he's going to affect Preston whether they're going to do with TPJ, whether they put him in the front row or where they put him. Do you guys think it's going to affect Preston at all, or do you think he'll play in the middle somewhere?
If he keeps playing the way he's playing, I think he's earned that spot. And then they probably play TPJ through the middle like they have in the past.
Yeah, I was thinking that Sutton goes back to the bench and TPJ starts potentially. I don't know. It could.
Well, they're interchangeable. Both of them are interchangeable.
Yeah, exactly.
You could do TPJ on the bench 1 week and then the week after, which they did last year. So
yeah,
I think you'll just find like New Brown will come out of the 17 altogether, and then TPJ will go in and like we said, I think Sutton will go to the bench. I see a world, where he keeps his spot out on that right side. So yeah. The other call that I did like was the Jerome Hughes, Cleary to Hughes. I was pretty keen on that one myself. Talked about it in our chat group earlier over the weekend. Eli Katoa, unfortunately, I went Liero just because I needed that extra 30 or 40K, whatever it was. But yeah, Katoa, geez, he looked good coming off Hughes, and Hughes just kept going there every time. Hughes had come wide and then just give him that nice little short ball. What did he make? 3 line breaks and nearly scored 3 tries from it. So
he made 2 line breaks. He made 2 line breaks in the one play. It was
yeah. It was really pretty to watch. So if you're not on Eli Katoa, I think you've got to get him, especially while Hughes is running the show with no Munster.
And that draw coming up, like we mentioned, that's a crazy looking draw.
Yeah,
I played Jackson Ford over Liz Katoa, and he was sitting on my phone for 90 points. So another rookie error. Anyway, all right. Next game is the game of the round. By far, the game of the round. The worst game of the round. Sorry, my mistake. That's coming from a Tigers fan. That is probably the worst game of football I've ever seen us play. It was disgraceful. All right.
No, I think you're half right there, Ross. I think that's probably the worst game of rugby league that has just ever been played, and that probably includes under 6s chasing the ball.
If there is a worse game than that this season, I will be very surprised, and it's only round 2. I don't know how we lost by 2 points, but Newcastle got the win 14 points to 12. But let's talk about the game. We had Kalen Ponga get knocked out, first tackle in the game, gone after 90 seconds. We had Jaden Brayley get knocked out and go off for HIA early in the game. We had Dominic Young cop a sin bin, and we had Jacob Safidi sent on, and they still could not get the win. And
Frizzell as well.
And Frizzell lost earth injury.
Yeah.
I have seen better attack from an under-5s team. That was just disgraceful. And to be honest with you, I feel ashamed to support a team like that. Honestly, I really, really do. I had no faith in them. I took Newcastle. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's look at some scores. So Dom Young got 91. Dom Young got 91. He scored a double. That was including getting sin binned as well. He was okay. Stefano 66 with a absolute rubbish call of a try. That was probably double movement. Gagai 73 was pretty good, and Fitzgibbon 64 as well. who I don't mind as an option, obviously for draft, but probably not for classic. All right, go to first, Brad. I don't think there's much to talk about this game other than it was just rubbish.
I personally think I think we should write the Volandis. They should be friggin' shot for putting this game on a Sunday afternoon as the advertisement of the NRL. Like fair dinkum, it was a disgraceful looking game, even from the Knights, who actually managed to win beyond all expectation. It was just a nightmare. Volandis, buddy, have a look at your TV scheduling because that was shit. Like the dead set. I don't know how either of these two teams going forward are going to win a game. Like looking at what we saw dished up, I don't know what Coruscant was doing. I tell you what, that centre, Kapoa. What do we think of him? He actually had. I liked his runs and his involvement. He got really into the back line there a few times, and you know, he certainly was. He was really trying hard. So he was one shining little light in amongst it. I don't have another one. Poor old 12 still can't get over for a try and finds himself 0.5 of a metre short about four times.
How often does that happen? He's been held up over the line and 4 or 5 times in the last year. It's poor bugger.
Oh man, I captained Dewey, no secret to all that have been listening to me squawk all afternoon. Geez, yeah, I was ready to shit myself come half time. I tell you, because I didn't see him anyway, even after half time and coming back. Stefano, well, God, thank God he scored that try because he's another one in my team that was, he's got to go. He's just got to go. That's it. Nothing to say. That's it.
Yeah, you got anything else to add?
No. That's it.
Dan, you got anything else to add?
Only thing I really say is that Stefano try. Super coach, the company should be the bigger people and take the try off him and give him no points because it was a horrible decision. Everyone knew it, and I own him. I didn't play it, but I own him, and I still think it's horrible. That's been called a double movement for years. It's terrible.
Yeah, the only thing I will say is that how often do we see blokes break over the try line and then get held up and then they sit there for 3 or 4 seconds moving around trying to get the ball down and the ref sits there watching and waits for them till they get the ball down. So personally, I don't see any difference whatsoever between what Udakamano did because you could see his momentum did take him over the line, but once he got over the line, then he rolled to try and do that. At which point, how's that any different to someone who's trying to hold him up?
To me, that's it's a discipline thing. If he didn't put his arm out forward, if he held his arm to his chest and then like he did, he slid over and then tried to put it down, that'd be fine by the rule book. But he reached out just before he reached the line, and that's a double movement straight away. It's a discipline thing, and obviously when you see the bloody try line, you ain't gonna. I know I would. Obvious when I think you go, the try line's just there, so I just put it down. But it's a discipline thing. They have to actually wait for that board, that momentum, take you over the line just so you can ground the ball.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think it's a tough call. He finished, like, you look where his head is. His head's half a metre over the line. So he didn't pick his body up and move himself over. His momentum got him over the line, but then once he got over the line, that's when he's tried to move around.
And I agree with that.
There's a lot of people blowing up about it. I could understand if he's short of the line and then reaches his arm out like that and goes over while his body's in the field of play. But, yeah, look, I don't know.
I feel for the people that have been pulled up, every other NRL player that's been pulled up for that in the past, because that's in the past, that's always been double movement. Always. Yeah, so the rule, I reckon you could be right. The rule, what you said, makes complete sense. Use common sense. Unfortunately, they don't work in a world that uses common sense. NRL has to be black and white, and that's what it is. So,
well, I think they need to look at the rule then, and like I don't disagree, but I think once the player's over the line and they're held up, I think the second they're over the line and held up, then that's when they've got to call it, not wait a few seconds.
I agree with that, 100%.
Because there's no difference between that not being a double movement and what Stefano did.
quadruple movement.
Yeah,
Well,
that's exactly right.
We'll see whether there's anything made of it in the next couple of days when the referee's boss comes out and says anything like that.
I'm sure they will.
Probably defend his call like he will with what happened with Ricky with that sin bin. But anyway,
Can I just ask? Sorry, going back a step. In the previous game, the Knights game that we were talking about, where Jackson Hastings came in with the head high. The fact I found that a really tough call. The fact that he didn't get 10 in the bin, considering games earlier in the weekend, blokes got sin bin for less than that. Yes, it was a careless shot. Wouldn't surprise me if he actually spends a week or two out of the game from that. As far as I'm concerned, like, he had his arm up, he came over the top, he copped him on the chin, and then sadly, so he gets nothing. But then the bloke goes out for 15 minutes for a HIA. So just the fact that he had to then go off the field for 15 minutes for a HIA, while Hastings gets nothing for throwing an arm out in the tackle. But then once he got ruled out, and like it just left a really sour taste in my mouth. I know that they're playing a contact sport. I totally get all of that. But I think when you could see straight away that the attacking player was going to go off, because he was going to have to go off because he copped a head knock straight on. I don't understand why the defender who throws the arm out there doesn't get 10 in the bin. If one's got to go off for 15, the other bloke should go for 10 at least.
Well, it just came out earlier too that Talau's got a broken nose from it as well.
Yeah.
So he's hitting pretty plush if he's broken his nose. Like, let's face it. Like, yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand. The video ref had ample opportunities to step in and go, listen, it's high, it's contact with the head, let's in bin him. But again,
I've got no doubt that the one later on where the bloke did get sin bin, I've got no doubt there's probably something in the back of the referee's head going, well, I fucked up. I probably should have sent the last bloke, so this bloke's really going to have to go, and just try and save some face that way.
I'll tell you what I agree. I own Hastings, and I had to play him, and I honestly, you know, the referee messed up, and I was like, oh, thank God. So I was like, I wanted him to stay on, but he did not deserve to. I think this is what I believe, and I don't like it, but I think this is what the case is. When they've already had someone being put in the bin, the referee is much more hesitant to put another person in the bin again. It's a psychological thing. They might not do it, but it's like hard for them to do that. I thought they don't want to give too much away for the other team, but that's just my theory. I think it's the wrong theory, but I think that's what happened.
I agree with you, Dan, too. I think he's probably looked and gone, oh, they've already got a player in the bin. Yep. We don't want to bin another one. But they shouldn't think of it that way, like you said. No. So, all right, we'll go to the last game of the round. And Dragons got the win against the Titans 32-18 in their first hit out of the season after the Titans led 12-0 early. And after that, it was all Dragons from there. Tino was great for the Titans in the losing side with 108. Ben Hunt was good, 85. Big Rava got 83. Blake Laurie, 80. And Sloan, I thought, was good with 70 points as well. Go to you first for this one, Tim. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, look, I only got to see the first half. After that, I was trying to get things sorted for the potty. But yeah, look,
I'll be back in 1 sec, boys. Keep going.
Yeah, you're right, mate. Not a problem at all. While Roscoe's gone, I was actually pretty keen to watch this game. A few key players like Ben Hunt's been pretty handy for Supercoach for the last 3 or 4 years. Well, basically since he left the Broncos, unfortunately. But him, Tyrell Sloan, I had him for a lot of the preseason. Jack Bird's always a great Supercoach player to keep an eye on. You just got to work out where the hell he's actually going to play and how many minutes he's going to get, how involved he's going to get, and whether or not he'll stay on the bloody field. But the Dragons draw over the next few weeks. They've got the Broncos, the Sharks, the Dolphins, Gold Coast, Raiders, Roosters. So again, not a bad draw, actually, I think, as far as the Dragons are concerned. Be a good game next weekend at Suncorp against the Broncos, and they've got the Sharks. So, yeah, look, I'm keeping a bit of an eye on Ben Hunt. Might be a slight pod play if you are looking at offloading Nathan Cleary. Obviously, the Dragons have only played their first game, so he's still a couple of weeks away from a price rise. So you really do want to watch and see how they go for the rest of the next couple of rounds. But yeah, look, they put 32 points on the board, and a lot of the ball goes through Benny Hunt. So I'm not surprised that he scored well. Just wait till I bring that back up. Ben Hunt Ravalaar with an 83. Blake Laurie scored a try with an 80. Jacob Little got a try as well for a 71. A bit of a cheeky hooker option there, although Jacob Little has never really been all that overly Supercoach relevant. But mind you, his minutes have been all over the place. So if he gets the minutes, he might be worth a crack. Big Tino, 108. I know a lot of people are on him as a bit of a pod too, Payne Haas and also Joey Tapine. So, yeah, look, Tino did well with 108 for feeder with the 61. So a big difference there in points from the top point scorer for the Titans down to the second one. So, yeah, like I said, I didn't catch most of the second half, but some interesting Supercoach scores there. AJ Brimson, a bit of a pod for some people who had him at 5'8", and to have him as interchange as another dual position 5'8" fullback, someone like Ponga. So you could probably go a straight swap from, a swap with a little bit more cash from Ponga to Brimson if you wanted to. That's about, apart from that, Tyrell Sloan with a 70 is probably one to keep an eye on as he's nice and cheap.
Yeah, you, Brad.
Unfortunately, again, I've got to go straight to the negative. Tanner Boyd, sell. Luckily, I didn't have him to start the year. I did warn people about his PPM in previous years has been pretty woeful. I couldn't see much changing, and yeah, 25 points. Wow. Probably going to get downgraded yet. No, I'm joking at that. Don't all jump on and kill me. Yeah, but seriously, this is the week to do it coming up. So if you got Tanner Boyd, there's plenty of other options, which you've heard us sort of half mention throughout the pod. Probably time to get rid of him, I'd say.
I think Fafita was lucky to get 61 with a bit of junk at the end there with some tackle busting, and I think an offload was at the end.
The forced dropout too, right at the end as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I did catch that bit.
I'm not complaining. I'll take any junk when I captain a player.
But what I will say on Fafita though is I am happy with, even though I got him, and I'm very happy that I got him because his work rate, he's getting 61s without getting major attacking stats. So and you know they're going to come. So I'm definitely happy that I got Fafita. So I picked him over Murray, and Murray got 40 this week. So to me, that's a good choice. One of very few.
Yeah, I wasn't going to start Fafita, but being the contract year, and I just had a feeling he was going to be in for a big year. But obviously, he signed that contract. But like you said, Dan, I'm pretty glad I started him. I mean, 61 with no real attacking stats. So you take that any day of the week, I reckon, for a player at around about his price.
Just a quick thing, boys. I'll be interested to see the updates in this game. If you actually have a look at the scoring, so there's only actually 4 players from the Titans that got over 50, which seems like a ridiculously low scoring game. I mean, the game itself was 32-18, so you'd like to think that there's some more points in there. And even the Dragons themselves, what have they got? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is. 8 over 50. So that's a really low scoring Supercoach game. So I didn't get to see the second half, but the first half didn't look that bad.
I don't think there's going to be too many changes there.
Yeah, no, well, I'd say Brimson's owed a bit yet. There's a few line breaks and things like that, and doubled up into there's a couple of offloads. Brimo was heaps more active than his 52 is showing there. Wait, I don't know. Did you see it, Dan, at all?
I think Brimo, I'm not sure how it worked with that Pereira try. I think he actually broke the line first and then passed to Pereira. But it was a real close one. It's one of those ones that could go either way. He literally he was tackled, he tackled, busted, and ran through behind the line, and then did the cutout pass to Pereira, who scored the try. So I'm not sure if he got that line break. But yeah, I think that if that's the case, then Pereira drops even more money.
God, I hope not, because I actually played him this week. I played 6 centre wings this week. I played him and Warbrick off my bench. So yeah, I hope they don't get the downgrades.
Yeah, he hasn't certainly turned out to be the player that we hoped he would be. Pumped out a massive 5 last week, and a 37 this week with a try. He just doesn't have the base. Very much relying on tries. He's going to be very much a slow burner for us this year that has got him in their team. But I'm not sure what sort of minutes BMM played, but only got 34 points. But he seemed like he played a lot of minutes. Bit of a concern for those who started him.
He looks good. I only saw him once in that
Mm.
game, but like he literally just busted through a tackle, got the line break, and kept going, and then just passed it off. And I was like, I didn't see him after that.
He played 72 minutes
Yeah, he
for
just
34
disappeared into
points.
thin air. His work rate just
So
disappeared.
6 hit-ups, 82 meters run, and that was it. That's pretty much
And
two
there's no,
tackle
there's,
and two tackle busts and a line break in that as well.
yeah, and that was
And he
that
only
one
got
play that I
34.
saw.
So
So
that's shocking, and this has
that's
been
like
my
26.
concern
That's
all
like
along.
26. That's like 26 points just in the tackle bust and then line break.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. This has been my concern with him all along. So many people were so keen on Murdoch Masilla. The bloke's a plotter, and he's been around the NRL for 4 or 5 years, and he's a fringe player. I don't want him knocking on my door to have a discussion with me otherwise, because the bloke's pretty big. But yeah, look, he's as far as I'm concerned, he's not super coach relevant, and I think if you're on him, you're probably mad. But that's just my opinion.
Yep. All right. Well, that's a recap of the games for this round. We'll just go through. I know you guys want to have a quick look at VC or C choices for next week. And you guys had any idea of how to look to see who's playing next week? Who you like be putting the VC and C on for next round?
Are we VCing Turbo for sure?
Yep. Some interest. You probably have to maybe go look at a Melbourne player against the Titans. You think, if you had a Hughes or someone like that against the Titans?
Yeah, that's what I'll be looking at. I'll be looking at VCing Turbo into say if I do the Jerome Hughes trade, probably into that. Yeah.
Qatar will be marking up on David Fafita, so that'll be an interesting tussle there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that Qatar is going to be bulldozing his way through defensive lines with Fafita there and vice versa.
What about you, Brad? What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say I'll probably go reasonably safe, and looking at that, it's it's very difficult. The VC looks like maybe Turbo at Brookvale, into a captain of Haas probably. Versus the Dragons, I think Haas could be making a lot of yards up the middle there. From what we saw tonight. I know the Dragons came away winners, but I think there's some big defensive lapses lurking away in there from some of those plays I saw them running. I'm
probably looking at VC on Teddy as well. And if I do the Turbo trade to Walsh, I might look at Walsh as a sneaky captain choice against the Dragons as well.
Did you say looking at Turbo to Walsh?
No, Turbo into Walsh. Teddy,
VC, not the trade. Jeez, I would be doing that one.
No.
I was going to say, I'd be looking at maybe Teddy to Walsh, but I don't know about Turbo to Walsh. Yeah, look, the other thing I'm looking at doing, guys, is a little bit of a sneaky pod play is possibly going Cleary over to DCE. And could even go Val de Garrick as well and have all three of the Manly superstar backline players in my lightweights FC. So it's I can see Manly putting on points, whereas Panthers at the moment, obviously they get the week off this week coming, but they just still seem really clunky, and maybe they need to do a fair bit of work in the bye round to come back in round 4 and hit the ground running that way.
I think another option could be for VC in particular, could be Latrell against the Roosters as well, because they've looked pretty average as well. I think he could be decent shout for that game too.
And he tends to turn up for that game as well.
Yeah, both teams. It's always a cracking game. There's no rivalry there at all between Souths and Easts, is there?
No, nothing.
They seem to share players. They just go from one team to the other and back and forwards. It's no animosity at all.
All right. We'll go to you first, Dan, just to finish up early trade options for you.
Yeah, so I'm looking at going Teddy to Trell. I'm tossing up whether I go Cleary to Jerome Hughes. But I also have a lot of jewels on my halves and 5'8" I can interchange, so I can actually potentially get a gun 5'8" potentially. But no one's really standing out besides, say, a Munster who's out. So I'll probably just go to a Jerome Hughes. And then my final trade, I'm looking at upgrading. Potentially, I should have enough money to upgrade Stefano to another gun front rower. So I'm looking potentially at. I'm not really sure if I sold on one of the other Tarpany or Tino, but having that extra gun, I guess would be a pretty handy option. But I'm not sure who yet though. Whether I even need to boost might be a different story as well. So, but I also would have enough cash to probably go to Lau out of my center wing, which was a horrible choice, and upgrade him. So,
yeah. Brad?
Yeah, like you boys, the Teddy move is on, so it'll be Teddy probably to Walsh. The halfback, I will be selling Cleary, but I'm not sure. Look, for a real pod play, you can go to Tricky Trindle. That's a really balls up move, though. I'm not sure if it's too early in the season for that, but Jerome Hughes is certainly the smarter play. And I'm very tempted with that, with the draw they got coming up. My big quandary is on the hooker position. I'm just not sure yet what the hell to do with the cheese. I mean, he's obviously going to go, but Luke didn't seem to set the world on fire enough for me just to jump on him. So that's, I wish he'd scored another 10 or 15 points, and I probably would be there in a heartbeat, and it would have gone to Luke. So it means I'm at possibly, before this round, I was almost certain I was going to go Jeremy Marshall King. And I'm still very tempted. You got to remember, he scored this week. I think he still scored nearly 50 odd points, but that was with the sin binning. So he would have gone a lot better without that sin binning being thrown in.
Yeah.
But don't forget, he's suspended now too.
Is he going to be suspended for that?
Yeah, judiciary came out 2 weeks with an early plea.
Oh, forget that then. So there goes that option.
Yeah.
So I can't go that way.
It's a tough one, like you said, Brad, because you can only probably go to Egan as near a straight swap, or then you've got to go up to like a Marnie as your next best option, and then to a gun. You know what I mean? You can't really go down anywhere. So, yeah. Okay, Timmy?
Yeah, look, I've got Ponga, so that really hurts. But having Cleary out next week, so I've got Katoa up as my backup halfback. So there's a world where I will probably, or can possibly, and will probably go Cleary and Ponga to DCE and also Hughes from the Storm. So go double gun there in my halfback spot and bring Katoa down into 5'8" as support there for Dewey. And then I will try and assess where the heck the cash is at after that. So whether that's a downgrade, if I need to get some money to, I haven't done the maths yet to work that out. Ponga was a bit of a kick in the balls because I really wanted to keep him. But yeah, it just depends if I need to do a downgrade somewhere to, might be like a Egan Butcher down to, I don't know, the guy from the Bulldogs and go from there, or something like that. Will depend. I've got Butcher and Liero as my, or Butcher, Liero and Kepi as my backup 3 second rowers. So I probably can afford to downgrade one to a 200K cheaper who's going to make some cash, and then that'll probably help me, make those 2 double halfback changes.
Yeah. All right, for me, it's probably going to be Cheese to potentially Marnie or to Wade Egan, and then I will be looking at Teddy down to Reece Walsh to free up cash to go Egan Butcher up to a Carrigan or a Payne Haas or someone along those lines.
Just a quick thing, boys. Just don't forget though, Teddy doesn't have the bye till the week after. So if he's not going to lose a buttload of cash, there's a world where you could wait a week, see how he goes. And then Walsh obviously doesn't go up for another 2 weeks. So you could probably hold that trade on Teddy, depending on how you think the Roosters are going to go next round. Especially, like we just said, they're up against the Bunnies. So that game's always fire and brimstone. So Teddy could come out of his skin, as could Latrell. So look, just something for viewers to have a think about. I don't know if I'd necessarily be pulling the trigger super fast on Teddy just yet. I might wait one more week and wait till he has the bye and then go from there over to Walsh or someone similar.
Well, that's easy for you to say. You don't open Teddy.
Well, that's exactly right. I didn't go, but I've got enough other issues to fix. But yeah, I'm not convinced that I'd be moving Teddy just yet. Good watch in the arse against the Bunnies.
Anyone got anything else before we wrap up for this round?
Nope.
No, not really. No, just yeah. Good luck everybody next week, and yeah, do a lot of research because it's a big week coming up. A lot of trades to be made.
Just a quick thanks to guys out to all our members. Obviously, we've only been online with our Off the Bench podcast and Facebook for about 5 or 6 weeks now. And yeah, look, our membership, we've basically gone up. Well, we've gone up 50 extra members this week alone, and I think it was about 50 the week before. So we're moving forwards and really appreciate all the extra support. And for everyone who keeps sharing our podcasts and sharing our articles that we keep writing. We're trying to spend a fair bit of time writing the articles and getting as much out there as we possibly can. So please keep sharing it, viewers and members and listeners, and yeah, help us out as much as you can. The more we can get out there, the more information that we can put across. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on, Tim, as usual. And Brad, thanks to you again. And thanks, Dan, for jumping on from the Tragics. And you've got your podcast on a Tuesday night, is that correct?
Yeah, Tuesday night, usually pretty late. So I get it uploaded by morning and on Wednesday morning. So.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, and good luck for next round and happy trading. And we will see you next Sunday for the round recap of round 3. Take care, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.
So, everyone,
Stay safe.
thank
Be
you.
good, guys.